Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a 1-year-old retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! I'm gonna open a bit.
Yeah, hooray! We made it to a year.
Cheers!
Cheers, and there we go.
Cheers.
Proper one of them. There we are.
Oh wow, that was disappointingly silent, wasn't it? Wow.
We'll edit that in. So just put a crash.
Yeah, Gloogle sound.
Gloogle. You do Gloogle beer.
Wow.
So yeah, and this is the kind of on the edge of your seat podcasting you can come to expect it from us. So yeah, 52 episodes. Brilliant. Absolutely
who saw
awesome.
that coming?
I know, but like they said to us, or I read on the internet somewhere that you've made it.
Yeah.
Over 20 episodes, then you've
really 20.
Yeah, 20 is like apparently like if you make it over 20 episodes, you've made a podcast. So there we go.
Well done.
Yeah. Do you remember our first episode when
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. You sound like you were about to cut me off. You're like, no more conversation about that.
We don't talk about anything before we change the microphones.
I think the first episode wasn't so bad. It was like, I remember the other day, I was trying to like sell the Wipeout episode to somebody, and I was like, episode 6, I was like, oh, don't listen to that episode.
See if you can find a transcript.
Yeah, it's great content, but you can't fucking hear it.
No, we're not re-recording it. Stop asking.
A deep cut of Living La Vita Loca podcast. But yeah.
We're over a year old, we can have them now.
I remember that we sort of said in the first podcast, it was like we thought we were just trying to time capsule our sort of gaming and friendship and things like that. And it's nice that we've done that.
Yeah, job done, I think so.
So, and it feels like we've got, speaking for myself and hopefully speaking for you, I feel like we've got absolutely tons more to talk about over, however long it is that we do this for. But yeah, the more I haven't stopped thinking about ideas, about what I want to talk about. So yeah, hopefully you're all enjoying it. And
if you're not, at least you're quiet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keep it down out there. But I hope, I hope you've got enough from it, listeners, that, it keeps you sustained in some fashion.
I just hope you don't actively hate it. If you've got something from it, great. And if you're feeling a sense of camaraderie, even better. As long as you just don't actively hate it.
You're like undermining it somehow on the internet.
Yeah, the worst thing that could happen to us now is apathy.
It's everybody in the mid-30s, isn't it? So
exactly.
I've got something that will make you feel less apathetic. I've got you a gift. It's only cost me like £3 off the internet, but happy birthday!
Oh wow!
I got you a very low res Gunstar Heroes magnet for your fridge. Because you love
next to my Street Fighter ones.
Yeah, I thought it would definitely come better looking than it is. But you can kind of make out that it says. Unfortunately, it's a Sega Genesis cover.
It's fine.
So sorry, just have to kind of deal with that. But
I haven't got you anything.
That's okay. That's a typple relation. Do you know that's how I know our relationship?
I forgot our anniversary.
Yeah. Our relationship's healthy because one person does that,
about it.
And then I'll go and resent you later. I'll go and scream into a box or something.
Yeah.
A shoebox. Oh, why does he love me? That'll be fine. So anyway, but we've got a treat for everybody though. A birthday treat, anniversary treat, whatever you want to call it, for everybody this podcast episode. We are going to be looking at the top 100 games ever from an article from GQ magazine, which I believe stands for Gentlemanly Quarterly? Gentleman Quarterly?
I don't know.
I think it used to. I don't think it does anymore because those kind of magazines are, that aren't, in, they're not a fad anymore. So it's just called GQ. But we've been kind of pouring around this idea for a little bit. And we've been thinking about what we want to do with it as well. So, but we thought it would be really cool just to kind of do a bit of a sort of, bit of a different type of episode. We really enjoyed doing our episode where we did our score rankings of last year. That was quite fun.
Yeah, that was chaotic.
Yeah. And that's what we want. We want to induce chaos. That's all we really want to do. So we have taken an article, and I kind of thought, well, we'll have a look at what the most recent top 100 games articles are, and they don't come around very often actually.
No. They seem to need a reason.
Yeah.
They'll update a lot of old ones and stuff like that. And then, I mean, for my tuppence worth, I don't know about you, but like, what kind of jumped out at me with this list is that it felt a little bit more rounded than some of them.
Yes.
And some of them either seem to lurch one of two ways. They'll either be worshipping the games of the past, and it's all like Space Invaders and Pong and stuff like that, or there'll be like huge recency bias. This was a bit recency biasy.
I would say it's quite recency biasy.
Yeah, and had a lot of sequels in it, which I was surprised by. But on the whole, I think the list just felt more like the kind of list I might put together. It
felt like a normal human list.
Thank you. I will take that as a compliment. But yeah, like some of them that we were looking at just didn't quite feel like they were in line with our tastes. Granted, like there's still no sports games or anything like that on this one, which was a bit of a surprise, or at least none that jumped out at me. So like I don't think it's a perfect list by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's one that I would necessarily put together myself, but this is the closest that I could find.
Yeah, and I think that when I looked it up, I was trying to find a list that was kind of created by a lot of people. Yeah, thank you to GQ for lending us your list. I'm sure there'll be someone
Surprise!
Listening. Yeah, no. Getting sued by GQ.
If anybody's listening.
Wonderful, yeah. So, yeah, I think that when I looked at it, it was like, I think they'd asked 300 different people from what you put in air quotes, the industry. But then they actually did name and list those people down below as well. They were quite open about who they were. And it was like, game developers of different sort of places and different people from, different journalists and stuff. Like it did genuinely seem like people who are involved in the industry in some way. And it said that they give them like an open canvas. So it was almost like you can kind of pick whatever you wanted in a way, but like, so, like it wasn't just sort of, oh, here's the 300 games you can kind of like sort of, you could pick from and stuff. And I think it genuinely was quite a sort of open sort of canvas. So, that felt like the right thing for us to be picking from as well. So yeah, here we go. It's from May 2023. Rich has painstakingly handwritten it all out for us, which is very kind of him. So we can look at it and reference it whilst we pod. Then we were stuck on an idea what we wanted to do with it, weren't we? Like how we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of pick ones at random, but you thought structure was needed to introduce chaos in the appropriate measure.
Which
is kind of ironic, really.
I don't know if it. Yeah, I mean, obviously it is, but at the same time, like I feel like every time we do have a structure, it becomes more chaotic fun.
I mean, it becomes a bum fight. It's what it is. So explain to the good people what we're going to do.
Birthday cake fight. So yeah, we're going to do a draft. We're going to do a draft of games that we have played, which obviously seems to make the most sense. So we're going to draft games from this top 100 list. We'll try and touch on other games as well. Because obviously we will include the article in our blurb for the pod, so everyone can go to it if you want to whilst you're listening along, and you can see what other games we've just like criminally missed. We'll probably list the top 10 so everyone's aware of what's in the top 10 at one point. So we're going to do a draft of 10 games that we have played, and the idea being that obviously we want to draft the game before the other person does. It might be that we have completely separate lists. And we'll probably touch on that a little bit in terms of what we have played, in terms of numbers of games we've played in this. And we're also going to try and do a little draft of some games that we've not played as well. So maybe our top 5 of games that we've not played that we'd like to play. And talk about, do we think we're going to play them? Have we got the ability to play them? Will we ever get around to them? That kind of thing. So, so we're going to start off with, like I say, 10 games that we have played, and we're going to draft them We're going to take turns. We will Rochambeau for it, as is per our law.
As is tradition.
Rock, paper, scissors for it, just like Alex Kidd. But should we just list the top 10 games to start off with so people know what's in the mix in this article anyway? Because, it won't make a difference necessarily to us for our draft, but it'll be just interesting to kind of go down and people can understand what the article looks like at the top end.
Mm-hmm.
So number 10, Half-Life 2. 9, Dark Souls. In at 8 is Portal 2. 7 is Metal Gear Solid. 6, Mass Effect 2. 5, this is just a test for me reading Rich's writing here. He's just letting me do it. 5, Witcher 3. 4, Bloodborne. 3, Tetris. 2, The Last of Us. And at number 1, voted the best game of all time, is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So, what do you think about that top 10?
I can't remember off the top of my head if this list came out before Tears of the Kingdom or not. I think it did.
Yeah, just about.
I mean, I think...
Is that right? I don't know if it is,
I think
it came out afterwards.
I think it came out after it,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to say it out loud in case I was wrong.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have that as my top 10, but there is definitely a fair degree of overlap. I think there are some very heavy hitters in there. I could see why. If you are kind of distilling 300 people's opinions, I can absolutely see how that ends up as your top 10.
Mm-hmm.
But I could also see how that is not everybody's top 10, if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
It feels very much like the kind of median, kind of average middle ground.
Yeah.
Safe bet, top 10.
I feel like a lot of people have played those games, is what I feel.
I'd agree with
I feel like
that.
they've probably got the most votes because a lot of people have played those games, like the populist vote.
Yeah,
not in a bad way.
No, but I think that's probably an accurate way of looking at it. Yeah.
I should have really done the top 15 because I asked you the question before we came on the pod was how many of the top 15 you played. So just quickly, 15 to 10. Red Dead Redemption 2, Super Mario World, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Disco Elysium, and Resident Evil 4. So, of the top 15, how many games have you played?
I hated getting asked these questions because it's I'm going to sound like a right arsehole.
This is great.
I am privileged enough and lucky enough to have played all 15.
Fucking hell, Rich. That is ridiculous.
Not to completion.
No, but still, to have played them at all.
I have played all 15.
You bastard. I knew this would happen. Right, anyway, it's okay.
Do you want me to do the other numbers while I'm at it? Just tear it off like a plaster?
Well, yeah, you can do. So I will tell you then. I have only played 4 of the top 15.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is part of the odyssey of us doing the podcast almost as well, that I think I probably just need to be a better gamer. I need to be a better person.
I don't know. I don't think that's the case. Maybe it's a generational thing. Looking at the titles that are on here and, where they came out and when, I would assume you were probably just out. Just doing life things. Just out. Just doing stuff.
Just out. Let's get the fucking groceries when Dark Souls came out. All right, yeah, fair enough. It's fine. Oh man, right, okay, yeah. So
I mean, unfortunately, Dark Souls was exactly the era where I was working a shitty job, and I would go get a big pizza from the nearby Pizza Hut on the corner on a Friday night. That was my weekend treat.
Yeah.
And then I would emerge 48 hours later having played Dark Souls. It's that sort of era.
Just come out like looking like an actual
blinking
demon.
into the sunlight.
What's wrong with that kid? I mean, that kind of gives you a bit of a runway, though, as well. Like, and you could just probably go, well, my favourite 10 draft is the top 10. Like, I mean, I know it won't be because obviously there's preference in there, but in most, pretty much most of it, you could just take.
I'm gonna do the other numbers now because, I just it does colour things a little bit. I think. Well, I hate to say it. Part of me genuinely hates to say this out loud. I have played about 87 of them.
Oh my god!
So there is this is why
there's going to be no crossover here.
But when we were looking at things like the IGN list and like GameSpot and Kotaku and all those kinds of places, this was the problem I was having, because the original version of this podcast involved us doing that kind of spin the bottle, what we haven't played thing. And I was like, fuck, like each one of these lists, like it's really difficult for me to find ones that I haven't played. And I kind of hated myself for that, because like that is definitely a position of privilege for one thing.
Well, no, not necessarily. Like,
also, like, what the fuck else was I doing with my life?
I just don't know. How have you had the time?
Well, exactly.
Where's the time
That's
gone, Rich?
exactly my point.
Wasn't that episode of The Peep Show where Mark's like, where'd all the time go, Gerard? Where the fuck did the time go? Like, that's just like, you know, it went here, it went into this. Like, some of these games that have just never even been on my radar as an option, like until like recently.
You have a loving family, whereas my thumbs hurt. Like, this is the thing. Like, and so like, I mean, for
my thumbs also hurt though.
Well, but like even
kids rag on them
for just in the street laughing at you and pointing. But just like
mobs
for games that are accessible to me as well, it's definitely getting around the 75 mark. 3/4 of this fucking list I could go and find a way of playing.
No, that is something that I probably I'm just batting more now. So I've played 26 of these games, literally a quarter of the list. That is insane.
Really?
Yeah, it is very low. But I have access to 60 of the games.
Okay.
So, and I'd say in some fashion, I probably have access to 80 of the games. If I could pull my finger out and just buy them for, you know, I have more access to the games now. That is there's very little in the list where I kind of go, oh, I'd be priced out of paying for that now. But yeah, without doing anything from today, I have access to about 60. And I'd say that even, and I texted you in the week and said, I need to stop buying top 100 games. But we'll get onto this towards the sort of, you know, into it. That, for example, there's a couple on there at the moment that are on offer on the Switch at the moment, and only just funnily happened to slide into my DMs. I was like, wait a minute, how did you know I was thinking about you? Like, and
happy anniversary, Fazz.
Did you email Mr. Nintendo
Dear
for
Mr.
me? Nintendo. He's like, who the fuck's this guy?
Why doesn't he shut up?
But I like his style. Yeah.
He's so polite.
And I'm going to do it for him. I'm going to put this game down to £5. So this will be interesting, I think, in a way, because I think that makes it almost that there will be some. I think there'll probably be a little bit of contesting, I'm hoping, in the top 10s, in so much that like there might be a couple of games where we might go, one or two where I'm like, haha, I'm having that off you. But you'll have a lot more to choose from.
Take them to spite me.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't know. I'm like, you kind of get the top or the second pick of the draft, and you're like, haha, I'm going to screw you over, or am I? But the other bit of the draft, which is going to be the games that you've not played, but will be really interesting for me to listen to your list. Because you are a bit more squeezed, I guess, really. If you've only got 13 to choose from, like, what are the 5 that you're going to pick there? And if I pick one of them, that might... I don't really... It's like a shit game of battleships. I'm just hoping to sink your draft.
So that is a question I was going to ask. Can I pick from my not played list something you've picked from your...
No.
For your top 10,
right? So
it's completely off the board.
Yeah,
okay, all right,
completely
cool.
Off the board.
Right, game on then.
Because that's just like, especially since you've played so many of them. Like, this needs to be harder for you than it is for me.
So as we go, we cross all of them off the top 100 list.
Yeah, I think so.
By the end of this, we should have 30 games crossed off.
Yeah.
15 each.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
So, let's rock, paper, scissors.
All right.
So we're going to do...
1, 2, 3, and then show.
Yeah, perfect. Right, okay.
1, 2, 3. Bollocks.
Bang.
Right.
Yeah!
Rock crushes scissor.
Rock breaks scissors backs.
Wow.
The scissors have backs or back?
No. Get on with it.
Yeah, right, okay, cool. I feel pretty confident about myself now. I'm kind of getting...
a pen, get ready to cross it
Yay!
off. Yep.
Okay, cool. This is really exciting.
Let's put a little initial
This is a birthday party.
It's like a shit version of Pin the Tail on the Donkey.
Yeah, I am going to take, as my first game, it's a bit of a reach on this list. It's in at number 78. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is coming off the board as my number 1 draft pick. It's a bit tactical, probably, but I think I have to be. I've already said it on the podcast before, and we've had an episode about Tony Hawk's a little bit, and we'll probably have more in the future as well. I think I probably only started to realise recently how important Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was to me. At the time of being, I guess, was I 12 when it came out or something like that? And I said on the last podcast about music being so important, the playlist. But also, they did such a good job mechanically of making an arcade skating game. Like, as in, that was all the right amounts of difficult. Like, as in, you know, and I won't hide it now, I guess, really. And it's almost like when we were at Slam Dunk episode, whatever it was, 13, 12 or something, and we asked, what's your best game ever and stuff, and I just kind of spaffed out, like, Metal Gear Solid 3, and I was a bit like, I need to think about that. And now I've thought about it a bit more, and I've looked at this list. That's my number one draft pick out of this list, so that must be my favourite game ever, technically. You know, that is in the. So I know I don't have to definitively answer these things, but that's certainly something that I'm a bit like, yeah, you know, like, why would I not?
It's a thought-provoking point, you say that, because I also have. Sorry, that was my attempt at crossing out Tony Hawk's then for you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean. I didn't know we were crossing it out. I didn't want to cross out your good work.
No, it's just,
I put my full initials beside it.
Makes it easier for me to see.
Like I was signing a check.
One there. So for my first pick, I went through, right? I kind of did a long list and then numbered them, right? And this was originally my 8th, like this was going to be my 8th pick. But as I sit here right now, looking at my top 10, I'm like, no, you know what? The rest of them, I'm kind of okay if I don't get them. The one game from my top 10 that I want to make absolutely damn sure that I have is Yakuza 0.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
Like, the rest of them, I love dearly. But looking at this list and what I've written as the top 10, I'm like, you know what? That is the one game that I want to bang on about.
That's good, though.
And I want to make damn sure that I bang on about it.
We've probably got like 3 minutes per game to bang on.
That
but,
is
bang on for
fine,
3 minutes.
Because I will...
You bang away, my friend.
I will work this into the podcast at some point. I fucking love the Yakuza games.
Excellent.
And the Like a Dragon ones, like my wife's playing the Like a Dragon games at the moment. And like Kazuma Kiryu and the whole saga is ridiculous.
That's so cool.
And it's overblown, and it's cinematic, and it's gritty, and it's lighthearted, and it's just so many contradictions in one. And not only that, but when I was lucky enough to actually go to like Tokyo and stuff like that, I was able to navigate around some of the streets based on what I had fucking played in the Yakuza games.
That should be a prerequisite for a game.
Yeah.
Best game ever.
And like Yakuza 0 is probably, I think, the quintessential one. There are bits that I prefer from some of the other ones. There are bits that I don't prefer. But
was that a prequel then? Or...
Yeah, it was a prequel. It came out relatively late in the kind of run, but when they were just starting to kind of re-release them in the West. So for a lot of people, myself included, Yakuza 0 was kind of the gateway drug. Set in the 80s and exactly as overblown and ridiculous and melodramatic and funny and... they put in all these mini games in each of the each of the installments and all that kind of stuff. Old arcade games and more recently Master System games, and yeah, it is a trip, and I can't recommend it enough.
Cool, that's awesome. They're available to me on Game Pass, and I have been sort of toying with that. So we'll do a Yakuza podcast. We'll do one.
Would fucking love to.
That'd be really good, and you can probably suggest to me what I should just have a little dabble with and stuff. So that'd be good. There we go. Good pod idea coming out of that one. So both first picks in the 70s in this list, though, interestingly.
Yeah.
But that's what the whole point of the draft when we settled on it was. It was almost like, what do you need? What do you need to go and grab? Yeah, exactly. Do you need to go and grab one of the top 10, or do you need to go and grab something that actually it is yours and you have to have it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird how that mental shift just happened.
Yep. No, that's good. So I'm going to stick in the 70s for number 2.
Okay. Yep.
For me, and that's going to be Pokemon Gold / Silver.
Nice.
I feel like that has to come off the board. Gen 2 Pokemon for me, the best one, and we've had Pokemon Yellow on the pod before, and I remember you saying at the time that it was almost like that felt like it aged a little bit too much, whereas this is the fine wine of the of the Pokemon sort of life, if you will. And I'm not necessarily now knowing how many games you've played off this list. Like, as in, like, I was a bit concerned that maybe you might grab Pokemon at some point because it's Pokemon. Again, I think it's like number 76, 75 or something like that, and it's just, you know, just going from that period of time where you'd kind of played through Yellow or Red or Blue, and you had the Pokemon card trading game, and you were probably at the peak of the powers of the cartoon in terms of, like, you're probably heading towards championship time, very first time for Ash and stuff. That is in, it felt like that was, Pokemon was at its zenith. And then they dropped an amazing game, and you were like, wow, this is like, you know, like, I'm done.
Just to prove however good it is, it can always be better.
Kick me off this globe right now, because I'd be absolutely fine with that. Like, as in, so, yeah. So number 2 for me, Pokemon Gold / Silver. I did have Silver at the time, but I have played Gold since. Don't really see a difference, so I understand why they're both together.
Fair, yeah. I'm gonna go back to my game plan now. The problem is I have lost it on the list. Ah, there you are, you cheeky ragamuffin. Here we go. Right, Street Fighter 2.
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
The one that I actually always say to people is my favourite game ever.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm now questioning that logic by the fact that I was like, no, Yakuza 0 is definitely mine. Don't you dare touch it. Street Fighter 2 is one of those ones that I just keep coming back to, and it doesn't matter like how long it's been. It doesn't matter it does matter what version it is and all that kind of stuff. But like, I just keep going back to it, and I will keep going back to it. And it's the sort of thing that if ever I'm, you know, suffering from a bit of that kind of jaded gamer syndrome, Street Fighter 2 will probably be the thing that ends up getting put on. Maybe a shmup, but then there weren't any shooters in this list.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Which I was like,
I thought you wouldn't be happy about that.
Well, it seems like maybe you could at least tip the cap, you know?
That's the problem with like lists, is that sometimes it just feels like you said, like, sometimes it feels like just exclude complete genres. Like, isn't everyone just goes,
yeah,
well, no one else has picked blank, so I'm not picking blank. Like, as in, they wouldn't know that necessarily, but it's almost like, do you know, like, it's a vibe that you kind of get, well...
But weirdly, the reason that I haven't mentioned it so far, and we was partly because this was that kind of, like, amalgamation of so many people's views, and the kind of declining popularity of the genre. I can kind of see how those two would go hand in hand to mean that, like, say, not even Space Invaders is in this list as a sort of, you know, grandfather of the genre or anything like that. Weirdly, I would find that harder to forgive if this was one person's list and they could think about it. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, Street Fighter 2, like, very pleased to see it in there. Absolutely deserves its spot. And yeah, mine. Thank you very much.
Like you say, that is, I think it's funny that is, and you've got on several occasions 2 of the same series in there, and it's almost, but that, I think that makes it a truer list, almost. It's annoying because you're kind of like, well, just have the best game in that series. But actually...
it feels like a more plausible list.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it makes sense. So, for number 3 for me then, I will be drafting one of those games that has 2 in the list, I believe. I think it does. And that is Halo. I am going to draft Halo, which is in at number 21 on the list. Number 3 for me. So, weirdly, one of those games that, so, I never owned an original Xbox until later on, but I would go around to my friend's house, Nathan and Betty, who've both been on the pod before, twins, and I would sit and play Halo with them, and it felt like, it felt like my GoldenEye. That is an almost like, you know, and I think original Halo, I'm sure you can only play 2 players split screen, and maybe, I don't know, but you know, when you find, like, just playing that and getting to the point where you were playing that on Legendary together, and that you were fighting the Flood in the library, and it's just like, it's in like the Silent Cartographer just being one of the best sort of introductory sort of levels ever and things. Just even yesterday, randomly came up on my feed on Facebook, I think it was, where you see Master Chief just throwing some plasma grenades under 3 warthogs, and literally throwing a grenade at himself to blast himself halfway across the map. And this is all from 2001, I think it is. And then he lands, and then the 3 warthogs he's just plasma grenade land where he is just fighting some of the grunts and some of the elites and takes out half the elites and stuff. You could do that in a game. Like, as in, no, I'm sorry, what now? Like, as in, like, but you could do that. And I would spend so much time, like, and eventually when I got an Xbox, just to, like, I would just spend so much time plasma grading warthogs to see how high I could get them. Like, is it just like, that's the fun part of it? And then, you know, the difficulty, you could just, it was just, you could make it, it was so adaptable to whatever you wanted to make it Halo. And I know everyone, or I say everyone in inverted commas, you know, I hear that everyone probably says that Halo 2 felt like more of the experience for me, but Halo 1, when that first came on the scene, I was like, oh man, that was one of those things where it's just like, if your friend would say to you, oh, what do you want to do today? I'd be like, oh, I'll just come around yours. Like, as in like, oh, now, we should probably go out, you know, we should probably go to the park or uptown or something. No, I'm coming to your house and we're playing Halo. Yeah, all right then. Like, 10 hours later, fair enough. So yeah, that's why it's high on my list. That's me, Halo.
Sweet. Number 3 for me. Yeah, I'll stick to my game plan. Doom.
Number 19 on the list.
So Doom snuck up on me. Because
that'd be terrifying.
Ironically, because I hadn't really played any of them too much until probably a few years ago. In fact, I wonder if this is a kind of pandemic era discovery. Mm-hmm. And then it was the kind of thing that before you knew it, you'd played all of them and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, like it's one of those ones that had always been kind of hovering on the edge of my radar when I was younger. I'd never really played it too much, apart from around someone's house back in the day on a PC. And I'm pretty sure it was the whole sort of floppy disk kind of situation. But yeah, like it was one of those ones that I picked up and started playing, and it lived up to the hype, and I understood, and I appreciated it. And then I played it with other people as well and appreciated it even more. And then I started watching speedruns and appreciated it even more. And then played the 2016 re-release and appreciated it even more. And the fact that they could bring on like these different layers, and you get to Doom Eternal, and it is hard to know how you can top that in terms of the kinds of video games that I like and first-person shooters. Yeah. You know, it scratches that itch between first-person shooter and arcade so well for me, and it straddles that line. Yeah. And not only that, but like the Doom 2016 soundtrack is probably one of my favourite ever. Like, nice. It is definitely up there. I've got quite a few of the tracks on my phone and stuff like that. I will routinely wrap Christmas presents to the Doom 2016 soundtrack, because if you are ripping and tearing, it may as well be fucking wrapping paper that you're doing it to. Like, it's Doom has become a big part of my life, and I didn't even notice it happening. And then I saw it on this list and was like, you know what? Yeah, that's
great. That's such good vibes to say that. Like, isn't it? You didn't even notice it came from such a part of your life. That's great. And for it to happen relatively recently as well, is really cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cool. So I'm going to just swap my list around a little bit here, just because I feel like the rest of my list are games that you wouldn't pick in your top 10 anyway. So I feel like this is the only one that may be some sort of risk to that happening. So I'm going to put it in it. It was lower on my list, but I'm going to promote it. Metal Gear Solid. Just on the risk that you might take that. I don't genuinely think that you were going to, but at the same time, I can't risk it being taken. And that will be the highest game on the list for me, I would say, by the looks of things. So, Metal Gear Solid, which is in at number 6 out of the list, and that's coming off for me. That's my 4th game. Metal Gear. So, the highest accolade that I can pay Metal Gear is that it is one of those games where I have sat and read on internet blogs, pages, the storyline so many times. That is in the Shadow Moses incident. Like, I had the walkthrough, like, sort of guide from the PlayStation magazine and stuff, and like that was like a book that was so important to me. Like, as in, you know, a little shitty paper book and stuff. Like, as in, I have just, as of last night or the night before, started the digital graphical novel on the PSP, which I've been desperate to try. It is beautiful. I haven't got a fucking clue what's going on. Like, in so much that the story makes sense as much as Metal Gear Solid story makes sense as many times as I know it over and over. But like, you have to do lots of weird sort of camera things and memory stuff. I'm not bothered about that. I just want to see the drawing, and it looks absolutely sensational, and it is perfect. I mean, I've probably gone through the first sort of half an hour so far, but yeah, I think about Metal Gear Solid a lot, like as a whole franchise, but especially the very first game. And recently picked it up on the Switch as part of the Master Collection. But I've already got all of the games, so I just picked up Metal Gear Solid just to have it to play again because I didn't have it on disc anymore. Yeah, it just... I know that story inside out, and it feels fucking perfect. It really does. So, yeah, I'm happy to have it on my list, and I'm happy to have promoted it a little bit higher than some of the things I had. So,
nice. Right, fourth pick for me, isn't it? Where are you on the list? There you are. Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. This is not because I've played it. I have played it, and I enjoy it, and it's fun. I still enjoy it. Right, as in terms of you know, action role playing and all that kind of stuff, doing the whole Dungeons and Dragons-esque thing, yeah, it's great. I fully appreciate it. The reason that it squeaked onto the list is because...
Oh, it came in at number 4.
It came in at number 4 because it is a pretty big factor into how me and my wife got together.
That's nice, though.
Because, you know, when you first meet someone and you're talking and you're trying to work out shared interests and all that kind of stuff, I can't remember how it came up in conversation, but it came up that she'd played over 100 hours of Skyrim. And I was like, you know what? That's a keeper. And like it kind of blossomed from that kind of conversation. And like, not even that conversation specifically, you know, that was one of many. But like, it was the fact that you'd found someone that cared about your hobby in some way, shape or form to that extent. Meant a hell of a lot. And we are still playing it between us. Yeah,
but that's why, not to get all sort of sentimental and shit, but that's why we do this podcast. Like that kind of answer, that kind of feeling and stuff. That's wonderful to me. That it really makes me feel happy. Like, it makes me feel like there's good in the world, and I fucking love that as a choice, and for that reason. So
there is a reason that the map of Skyrim is on our hallway wall.
Yeah, that's what that is.
We've got Skyrim on one wall, and we've got
I've not played Skyrim.
We've got the Sword Coast on the other one from Dungeons and Dragons.
No. Cool. I mean, funnily enough, I have 2 copies of ways to play Skyrim at the moment, and I still haven't played it yet.
It is worth a go.
Yeah,
it is worth a go.
I want to.
Yeah, it's starting to show its age a little bit. Obviously, it would, but there is a reason that it's been re-released so many times.
Yeah.
And for me, yeah, it scratches an itch that a lot of other games can't.
That's cool. Perfect. So I'm gonna come back on and course correct into what I wanted, and this was one of these games that I'm fairly certain that you wouldn't touch, not with a badge, Paul, for that, you know, reason that you're like, oh, that's disgusting or anything, but like, just because I don't think it's necessarily your bag in terms of being in your top 10. Grand Theft Auto 3. So I was really interested to see how high this came on the list, and actually it made me feel good about the list as well, because I don't think it came as high as GTA 5. No, I could see that. So came in at 61. Whenever anyone talks about, and we are gonna do, you know, we are going to do a Rockstar month at some point this year, because there's so many games for PSP, PS Vita, PlayStation, anything. And with Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out, that just feels ripe for the picking. There's so many games to go through, and there's so many good Rockstar games, and so many good Grand Theft Auto games. And I feel like everyone kind of goes, well, GTA 3, it's kind of like the one that you kind of go, well, the main characters doesn't talk, and it looks old now, but you know, it was very glitchy at the time, and obviously still is. But I'd never seen anything like it before, like at that time. In 2001, you know, I was lucky enough to get a copy, and the vice versa of Halo, in so much people would come around to my house to watch you play a one-player game.
We had exactly the same, my friends.
And just to, you know, mess around flying the dodo, like, and trying to get to the third island. The characters that are in that, you know, meeting all the, just so many different, like, characters in there that are just so, like, you know, you can see it all now where you get to your Trevors and stuff in GTA 5. That's where it started, really. I mean, like, I know GTA 1 kind of had the phone calls and stuff, and GTA 2 sort of, like, you know, had the sort of, you know, same sort of vibes and everything, but, like, that, you know, like, to go to Donald Love's pad in, like, the Middle Island and stuff, and sort of like, hi, I'm Donald Love. Like, as in, you know, like, and the Mafia and everything, and, you know, you just kind of, like, the very first time you did bomb the base and stuff, and it was such an important mission, and you could lose all your money because you had put all your money into buying a bomb and stuff. Like, there's just so many memories come from that game, and yeah, I absolutely love it, and I've completed that game more times than I care to imagine. And I don't care that you can't fucking swim. No, you know, I like that you know, on that and Vice City where you're just stuck on the island, you know, isn't it? And I like that your characters didn't talk because you get so much more from the rest of the game. And you know, putting the cheats in for the flying cars to get the hidden packages and stuff, like, isn't it so much fun? Like, you know, yeah, I think the bits that GTA 3 holds back from you make it more of a lovable game to me, almost. Like, you know, it kind of hints at what you can have in the future. Like, as in, just it's like it's like the New Hope. It's like Star Wars, like the very first Star Wars. It's like, here's what you can have in the future. You have to have a starting point, and GTA 3 was that starting point for me.
Nice.
So yeah, there we go. That's why it's on my list. I hope I didn't besmirch you by saying that I was like, you would never pick this game in your top 10.
Quite all right. So for me, I am going to bump an entry up on my list a little bit, because I have just dodged a bullet. I'm going to take GTA 4.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So I have, like you, many fond memories of playing GTA 3 with my friends. GTA 3 was also a game that my friend Andrew got through the post before he got the console. And there was one evening where we just sat there reading the box and the manual and going through the map and stuff like that. Like,
that tingly vibe of doing
just
that,
like waiting for the console to turn up. And Vice City will forever and a day be a personal favourite of mine. If it was on this list, it might have had a fair shot of beating GTA 4 in my books. GTA 5, to skip ahead, you know, a lot of fond memories of playing through that. It was really, really good fun. Played that online with my wife, then girlfriend, and have many fond memories of her YouTubing how to fly the plane while on her way to an airport in one of the online missions and stuff like that. But GTA 4 is the sweet spot for me. Like, that is where everything came together. And like, there are bits of the design of the game, looking at you, phone calls and social Roman stuff that haven't aged particularly well. However,
at the time,
like, for me, for how the vehicles feel and how the shooting feels, GTA 4 is the sweet spot. And that might be rose-tinted glasses a little bit, but there is just something about the way the vehicles handle and feel in GTA 4 that I can sit down and play and absolutely fucking adore. Like, it just scoot back into it, and even just for a little while, just do a couple of power slides around a couple of blocks, and I'm good, you know. And like, GTA 4 was like,
just imagine just like you're blasting around your block now in real life, just like gotta go.
But like, it's that for me was where you kind of had that light bulb moment of like, shit, like, games can be filmed like that, you know, that cinematic approach. Like, that was probably the first time it really grabbed me and kind of demonstrated what it could do as a storytelling medium. And yeah, like many fond memories, because that was kind of like what you've said recently about like being at university and having a bit of money and all that kind of stuff. For me, that started happening a little bit later.
Yeah.
But that coincided perfectly with having the money to get GTA 4 and the time to play it.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, that encapsulates a lot of that kind of period for me. So yeah, we'll always have a soft spot for it.
I love the fact that the Grand Theft Auto games, a couple of them have got into this top 10s because it's almost like, I think with Grand Theft Auto 5 now, and even the trailer of 6 being released, it's almost a bit prestige. That is almost like a bit like...
It's going to end up swallowing itself.
Yeah, well, I think it has several times, like, is in more ways than one. And I think that, you know, like, you forget that its roots, the reason it is the behemoth that it is because they've just hit on something where it's just tried and tested, but they've had some just great times along the way as well. And it's almost like there's no reason why you can't have lots of mountaintops on your journey. Do you know what I mean? And you know, and I'm sure GTA 6 will do something different that'll make it, you know, that way as well.
But I mean, GTA 4 was the first time in a video game that I could basically play through that big heist scene from Heat.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like,
damn!
this is awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. GTA 4, I mean, it was kind of sniffing around my list as well. But I thought I plumbed for 3 when I saw 3 on there as well. So speaking of game 3s, I may as well just dip back into the waters I've already swam in and stick to the rivers and the lakes that you are used to. And very much the rivers and jungles I'd be used to would be in Metal Gear Solid 3, which, whilst I sort of said before, I was like, haha, I said last year that was one of my favourite games. And it is, so it's fine. You know, and this, again, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to go back into the same series and find a game that we love twice. And you only live twice, James Bondy kind of thing. Like, this is the most James Bond, and people describe it as this most James Bondy.
It's even got a theme like a James Bond film, isn't it?
It just is. It just, and you know, and you kind of get the camouflage sort of. You can do that game so many different ways. That is in, so you've evolved to that point where like stealth is still the best option, but you can just run and gun as well. And like the controls in Metal Gear Solid are the only thing I think that you kind of point at it and go, that's probably a bit old hat and you could probably do a better job of it now. But everything else, and especially Metal Gear Solid 3, like, yeah, just absolutely sensational storytelling. It feels like, just like with Metal Gear Solid, I could just sit and read that story, read around the story, and just be immersed in the world of Metal Gear Solid 3. So I have no qualms about getting it on my list and having 2 Metal Gear Solid games in there. So yeah, there's me at number. Is that number 6? I think it is for me.
I think it might be.
Yeah, cool.
So for me, I keep messing with my own damn order. It's ridiculous.
That's fair. I mean, Oh wait, no, you have I did have GTA 4.
Did you?
I had it in there, yeah. Sorry, oh man, is that the first time?
Yeah.
Did I not? I've not taken any of yours yet, so
no, not yet.
You son of a bitch! You sunk my battleship.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like told before. I was like, oh, GTA 4's not in there. No, it was. It's lower down, but it's now not there at all. You mother.
Oh wow.
Son of a bitch.
There you go.
Although I might drop another. I've got like a list of backups.
Oh yeah, I had plan B options
just in case
that I'd be okay with.
Yeah.
But this one, Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
You don't like that game?
I really like that game. So I obviously, for anybody that's listened to that particular episode, gave it 10 out of 10. I stand by that. I really like that game, to the extent that the more I talk about what my kind of favourite games are, the more I'm starting to think, like, is it actually Symphony of the Night nowadays? Like, it's that level. And you know, when more recently when I was reviewing like MotorStorm RC and stuff like that, I was sitting there like playing that and thinking of Symphony of the Night. And it's that kind of level of like, it's just sunk into my soul. I'm trying to order a soundtrack, which for me is a high watermark of and a hallmark of a great game. It's all those sorts of things. And like I was watching a fucking speed run of it the other day, where somebody plows through like a randomized version of it in about an hour, and it just built up my appreciation of the game even more.
Yeah.
That somebody could sit there and go, okay, well, I know that there's a 1 in 10 chance that the item I'm looking for is in one of these places, so we have to like, and they knew the map well enough to be able to change their route on the fly to do all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Any game that can elicit that kind of approach from anybody,
there we go.
You've got to tip the cap.
You got it.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. That's cool, man. I mean, I fully expected that would to the point where I was like, do I play?
Do I take it anyway?
Castlevania of the Night before this list, just to annoy Rich and take it. So let's get on track, and we'll have to come in with a different one soon. So my 7th is, ironically, Final Fantasy 9. Not 7. So Final Fantasy 9 is on here somewhere. We'll have to find it in a minute, but it's weird because I've played through Final Fantasy 7 more, and I've talked about and thought about Final Fantasy 7 more, but I imagine it's like when you see in movies sometimes where like a main character will have like a wife or something like that, but they'll start thinking about like the girl that they are in lust with, like is in, and it's almost like I feel like that. I feel like Final Fantasy 7 is my wife, and I feel like Final Fantasy 9 is that person that I'm like, but I can't stop thinking about Final Fantasy 9. Like it's in, and it's just I feel like the setting is just exactly what you'd expect from a classic Final Fantasy, but just almost like modernized in a way, if that makes sense. Or,
that makes sense.
Having the flying airships and things. I'm not one for, as you would well know by now, yourself personally, and also people that listen to podcasts, for long, arduous, grinding games. But I make exceptions for games such as Final Fantasy 9, where I'm so invested in the characters to the point where, and you've renamed Zidane Fazz, like as in it's just happened, and you're like, oh, like as in I'm in it for the long haul. Just a beautiful looking game, plays perfectly. It's up there, and I think I said this on Final Fantasy Extravaganza pod that I think that was my favourite sort of Final Fantasy. And yeah, there's no point in changing that now while we're talking about our favourite games in this list. So,
so I'm going to screw with my own border again.
Are you okay over there?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just that it's a convenient segue. Because obviously Final Fantasy stuff, we've talked about it before.
Oh yeah, that's fair enough.
My love of Final Fantasy VI is very well known. And so the next one on my list is Persona 5. I thought long and hard about whether or not I was going to go with Final Fantasy VI or Persona 5. And I ended up settling on Persona 5 because like there's something about the artwork, again, the soundtrack. Yeah. Especially when you find out that like the person who does most of the singing in English doesn't speak English. They just learnt the sounds of the words.
Ah, cool.
But it sounds so good. Like I cannot overestimate the quality of that soundtrack. And the artwork, the style of it, the JRPG tropes and the sort of slice of life stuff in it. It does a lot right. And it's also one of the few games that I've played, and I distinctly remember finishing because it was one Easter weekend. And I was like, cool, I got nowhere to be. I'm near the end. I reckon I can finish this in an hour or two, because I think I'm getting close to the final fight. And I was rolling credits at about 3 a.m. because what I thought was the end of the game kept shifting further and further away from me. That last stretch was like a genuine test of like endurance for me. And
it's a good game.
it is a good game. And if I was playing through it again, I would, go in wiser and know that, this will be a long fight, or I'll have a gap where I can save there and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't at the time. And it was just like, right, I am 80 hours into this. I can finish this tonight. Let's go. And I just went in with that mindset, and it very nearly got the better of me, but didn't.
Well, I mean, they are the games of that genre that I'm sniffing around the most, thinking, just because they're so weirdly available at the moment. Like, as in, so actual physical versions cost a lot of money to come by, whereas digital downloads / what's available like Game Pass and stuff is like actually, and then there's also the Tactica versions as well. There's a lot there that actually you could dig into, and from what you've just mentioned there was what I was sort of hoping to hear about Persona. It's almost like I feel like it would be something that would ingest me quite quickly.
Yeah, like I know I've reviewed Persona 4 and stuff like that on the Vita for this, and Persona 4 was my first encounter with the series. Persona 5 is a pinnacle, let's say. Like it's a much better game.
Great, cool. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back to you guys. So that we're up to, was that the 7th game?
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful, cool. And we'll come back to you guys with the rest of our lists and our games that we want to play. Hi everyone, welcome back. So we're up to pick 8 of our draft of games we've played out of the GQ Top 100 games of all time. So it's my go again now. This was the slot that GTA 4 was in, and Rich stole that, so I'm glad we've had that. We'll sort that out later. So I'm going to bump up what was 9 and 10. Number 9, Super Mario Odyssey is on my list of number 8 now. I think that's firmly lodged in the sort of late 80s and early 90s. What is it about Super Mario Odyssey that makes me put it into the top 10 list? I think that it's similar to yours for your Skyrim pick, that I've been playing it through my son.
Oh, yeah.
And whilst it's not really necessarily a 2-player game, you can control Cappy as a 2-player.
Yeah.
To be able to do that, and this be the first proper game where he is fully invested and he can see it seeping into his soul. Probably not good for his health, but good for mine, to sort of be able to do that and sit down and enjoy and share a hobby together as loved ones, and for him to understand something that Daddy loves, and then wrap that all in one of Mario's best games with all the trimmings of what makes Mario special, and top that off with, this is basically a really good Mario game, and you can control lots of different characters, just makes it super fun at different times. Yeah, and also, I'll openly admit that, and probably you would have guessed this anyways, that it was my first 3D Mario game that I played all the way through. Oh, yeah. Isn't that so? I'd kind of dabbled with a few bits here and there, but not being a Nintendo owner of most of my life, never really played any 3D Marios. But I'm aware that all of them, I think all of them get really well reviewed. But yeah, I've not even played it till last year. It's been out like sort of 6. It's been out for 6 years, and it doesn't play like a 6-year-old game. It plays like a game. It just sings the entire time. It's just wonderful. And then topped off by the fact that it's just been a shared experience with my firstborn Oscar. So, that's been lovely. So that's in at number 8 for me.
Cool. So my number 8 was actually on my original list at number 5.
A loser is here.
Yeah, definitely slid down a few pegs. Left 4 Dead 2.
Straight up, don't know anything about this game.
So, 4-player co-op shooter where you're taking on a zombie horde.
Okay.
And the idea is that you've kind of got this AI director that will adjust item placement, horde placement, attacks, all that kind of stuff as you're playing through. So it kind of keeps things fresh. It's got a sort of deep south, southern fried kind of vibe to it. I think Electric Worry by Clutch was used in a trailer or the intro or something like that. But also because the second game came out so soon after the first, they just put the first game in it.
Right, okay.
And made it playable. But the reason it ended up on this list is it ended up a run between that and Call of Duty 4, which, looking at the list, I think is actually just above it. Because I felt I needed to tip the cap to the kind of games we were playing when I was at uni.
Yeah.
And the kind of games that me and my housemates were playing. And Call of Duty multiplayer, just the split screen version, definitely did the rounds quite a lot. But Left 4 Dead 2 on the co-op was another one that we would spend a lot of time with. And it's the kind of game that, like, you know, came out on a handful of platforms at the time and hasn't really been ported to other things since and all that. So I kind of feel like it's maybe due a bit of a spit and polish and a re-release or something like that. So yeah.
Well, cool. Sorry, like I said at the start, no idea what that game is. I guess with the 4 in the middle, that was meant for player. So therefore, you know, that, and it just shows how much I don't know about gaming, because it's, you know, there's top games in the top 100 of this list. I'm like, I have no idea what that is.
Know what that is. Yeah. I don't know if it was the first game to do it, but it did that kind of asynchronous multiplayer thing. Maybe not asynchronous, but where you're not all playing the same type of character. So you would have, you know, if you were playing as a special zombie, you would have different abilities and stuff like that. And if you're online, so yeah, it did some interesting multiplayer things.
That's cool. Fair enough. So I'm going to just confidently not stray too far from my previous pick in at number 9 and drop in a game that I've reviewed for this podcast, Super Mario World. So I believe that I gave Super Mario World 9 out of 10, and I was kind of like there or thereabouts with how good it was, and whether I was going to give it a 10 out of 10, and it kind of came down to the difficulty of the ghost houses for me. But like that was kind of like, that was it though. That is in the how to describe it. Playing a retro game 30 years removed from when it first came out, 33 years, and feeling how crisp and how well it played and how beautiful it was. Like, as in, like, I use that word, like, it's in like genuinely stunning to look at whilst you're playing it. And the shock and awe of feeling that, you know, like, yeah, it definitely deserves to be on this list as high as, I think it's number sort of 14 on this list. And I would feel bad leaving it off, because even though I've only recently played it, it felt so right. Just felt so right as a game. Just feels like one of the quintessential platformers. And you know, it has all the right amounts of sort of the first 3 Mario games. Like, you know, thinking about how much I've played 1 or 3, which is, you know, not loads, but enough. Never played 2, but it just kind of has all the right amounts. It's just, you can just see that being the quintessential SNES game, where you're like, yeah, you know, like, bookend it with Donkey Kong Country, like we spoke about, and you're like, you know, you can sandwich any shit in the middle of that. Like, it's an open with this, close with this, and you're all good. So there we go. Yeah, that's my number 9, Super Mario World.
Nice. For all of my faffing with the order that I've got here,
I like that you've been all over the place.
I'm
questioning myself.
I'm kind of pleased that these 2 games are my last 2, assuming I get them both, right? For reasons that will become apparent. But for this one, I am going to go quite high up on the list, and we're going for Bloodborne. So I agonised about this, because it was either going to be Bloodborne or it was going to be Dark Souls.
I figured that was what you were about to say.
One of them had to get in there. And Dark Souls nearly got in because, you know, it was my kind of first dabbling with From Software, you know, notoriously difficult games and all that kind of stuff. But also, I still maintain that Dark Souls is my favourite kind of sword and shield kind of combat in any game ever. Yeah. Like, it just feels right how they've implemented it, to the extent that I'll play Skyrim and I'm like, why doesn't it play more like Dark Souls for, you know, using a sword and board?
Why aren't you Dark Souls?
But Bloodborne, however, is the only game that I've played once. I didn't 100% it or anything like that, but I did roll credits. I didn't get the ending that I could have gone for because I was so tired. And I like war weary, and I was just done. And I was playing it through at the same time as a friend from work at the time. We were comparing notes and helping each other and doing the co-op and all that kind of stuff. And he thought it was hilarious that war weary Richard turned his back on the ending that he could have had. But it's the only game that has, despite that, still like left its imprint on me. Like I bought the art book like afterwards, recently in fact, and looking through it, I'm like, oh yeah, oh that, and it's like the blackest book I own. Like everything is black. And yet, like the cosmic terror behind it all has definitely left a mark. So yeah, gotta give it credit there.
Yeah, cool. That is, like I expected one of those to come off the board at some point. Like the fact that like the genre is now called Souls-like, I'm a bit like, right, okay, fair enough.
So I'll tell you what, I'm definitely falling into a type though, aren't I? Between that, Castlevania, and Left 4 Dead, like I've got more of a horror bent than I thought I would.
Yeah, you're definitely black in your soul. So, what have I got left on my list then? Because obviously this is kind of like a free play in so much that obviously GTA 4 got taken off me. And I've been looking around thinking, is what I've got on my shortlist what I want? It's been sort of a difficult thing. Sort of Super Mario Kart. I was a bit like, maybe does that need to jump on there? But no, I'm going to stick with what I've got on my list. And I'm going to stick with one which is a bit weird. And I'm glad it's on here, actually, is The Sims.
Nice.
So... there was a very specific period of time of my life. So this is number 41, by the way, The Sims.
Is that Sims rather than Sims 2?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I saw The Sims 2 on here, and I was like, well, I've played the PSP version of The Sims 2.
Well, I was wondering.
And it was the worst game of my life. Well, nearly. So, yeah, I remember so this is the only time that I really was a PC gamer. And one of the games that I played a lot was The Sims, and I remember specifically sort of being super excited for the expansion packs as well, and loving The Sims Vacation, and yeah, just going to. It's a weird game that it's sort of like you go to school the next day and talk about your sim life. Rather than your actual life, and like you'd be like no one at that time, like it was a game just for you. Like, as in, and you were making your sim life just for you, and it kind of still carries on that way in a way. To be creating a world from scratch where you make a family or make a character and you invest your actual personality into them, and you spend so much time building from the ground up from nothingness. Like, as in, it sounds ridiculous, yet it feels so worthwhile. And I feel like it's really wholesome. Like, I mean, I know there's the bits where you kind of lock people in fucking rooms and burn them alive, which you have to do, obviously. Like, I don't know, why would you?
It's lore, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, there's definitely a place for getting your first date right, or or making your first meal for your friends right and stuff. Like, it's just there's things where you kind of go, when I was sort of, I guess I was 13 at the time, I kind of go, this is going to be me in the future? Like, I guess almost in a way.
Is this how it works?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I probably shouldn't shape my life on a simulation, but at the same time, it probably did instruct me a little bit in a few things. Like, as in, not a lot of language, obviously. But it was always just fun to play. It was just always fun to play The Sims. And you can't say that, you can say that, you sort of talk about, games on your list where it's like, oh, I've rolled credits and it was difficult at some point. And I'm not saying that makes it a bad game or it shouldn't be on your list. But for me personally, if a game is 100% fun all the time, it's a great game. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's done the job.
Yeah, so, I'm happy to put it on there. I'm happy for it to sneak in. It's got in over games that, I was like, previous to looking at this list that would never have got in. But actually, when I look at that 100 games, happy to have The Sims in there.
Yeah, cool. So for my last one, we're going from, so where was Bloodborne? What, fourth? 1, 2, 3, fourth.
Yeah.
Fourth best game of all time. We are going down to the opposite end of the list. So, Return of the Obra Dinn.
Ah, nice.
And this was where I kind of thought, you know what? And I mean, I say this is what 93rd, 96th, yeah. I
97th.
I saw that and
Knock
I
it
was
down.
like, you know what? Maybe there is something to this list because I was so pleased to see it on there.
It's on there.
You know
it is
what?
on there.
Like I would have that in my top 10, and it's for illustration's sake. You know, I've got ones on here like Final Fantasy VI. I've got BioShock, Pokemon Red and Blue, Resident Evil 4 nearly made the cut, Mass Effect 2. Like there were heavy hitters are floating around here. The Hitman, World of Assassination games and stuff like that. Obra Dinn was like, actually, like that did something different. Like that did its own thing. It's not a sequel to anything else, but and it's not a part of an established franchise with a long time to put the building blocks in place to achieve greatness or sink its claws into you. I don't have any memories of playing it at university or loved ones playing it or anything like that. Like that is a singular experience.
It's for you.
It's for me. I played it. It was satisfying. I played it once. I probably can't ever play it again because it is a puzzle, and it's not like a puzzle game where there are multiple puzzles or the puzzle is always changing. There is one set of solutions ultimately, and once you've sussed it, you've sussed it. That's that. But the narrative it gives you and the way it tells it is such a compelling piece of software. I was like, you know what? Between that and the fact that it looks so unusual, even today,
you've chipped one off my want to play list here.
Have I?
Yeah,
interesting.
It was. I'm probably lying to you there a little bit. I've got one slot that was a bit free, and this was kind of in the running for that slot.
Okay, right,
and for the exact reasons that you're speaking about.
I mean, I would recommend it. Yeah.
Oh, I will probably play it. You know, I just I can't draft it. Did me over like a kipper. Okay, so that's our top 10 then. So that's just kind of like, I guess, coalesce that again then. So myself then, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, Pokemon Gold/Silver. Because I'm looking at the list now because obviously it's changed a little bit from what I actually initially sort of said it was going to be. Halo in at number 3, Metal Gear Solid at number 4. Did they go Metal Gear Solid 5 again? Oh, GTA 3, then Metal Gear Solid 3, then Final Fantasy 9, and then Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario World, and The Sims. What a terrible list I am. It's what I say to myself. No, I'm really happy with that. Like, as in, like, if someone said to me, they're the 10 games you're going to play for the rest of your life, I'd
be all right with that.
Pretty okay with that,
nice,
So
nice.
That's not so bad. How about yourself? What were yours in?
I've got Yakuza 0, Street Fighter 2, Doom, Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim. Where has my 5th pick gone? There you are, GTA 4. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Persona 5, Left 4 Dead 2, Bloodborne, and Return of the Obra Dinn. Basically, I am a goth.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, well, we knew that. That's fine. And I'm just sort of like, and I'm like, oh, fun.
I probably should have thought more about this.
No, that's okay. That's good. This is what this was meant to,
It feels like a psychology test.
Exactly.
Like some kind of
the
weird,
Rorschach test of
test.
What kind of person are you? So it'd be interesting to know if any listeners out there sort of have similar sort of feelings. So definitely, we'll put the link in for the GQ thing, but try and go through and have a look and see what your top 10 games would be that you would draft. Not necessarily in what order you think that they should be on the list or anything, but what your games would be. So as quick as we can then, we're going to have a little mini draft now of the games that we would like to play that we've never played. So we've never touched it before, and you reckon you've only got 13 on that list, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's fine. And I've got all the rest of the games. But from what I can feel, apart from the Return of Obra Dinn, that I sort of said maybe would make it into my list, I think that it'll be interesting to sort of see. So we're going to try and do it drafty again, so we might even knock each other off a little bit here, but I reckon that our lists are probably different anyway. So I'm going to be a gentleman of the quarterly version, and let you go first this time in the draft, and you can pick whatever you like off your list of 13.
So considering my kind of top 10, I think this will simultaneously come as no surprise and a huge surprise, if that makes sense.
No.
I'm going to choose Silent Hill 2.
Okay.
Because I think that on paper should be the kind of game that I've played an absolute shit ton of. And haven't.
Yeah, fair enough.
I dabbled for a couple of minutes with the HD one once upon a time, which by all accounts is a terrible version. So yeah, not played the actual version of it, and would very much like to.
So scary.
Oh yeah, like I wouldn't be able to play it for very long.
I'm so scared of it.
I'm not good with. This is what I don't get about my top 10. Right, I'm not good with scary games, and yet.
No, but they're not that. They're more.
It's like kind of cozy goth.
Yeah. Hey, settle down, have a tea.
Oh, some undead. Never mind. Don't mind him.
Just brought them with me. got a chain attached to my pants. Okay, cool. Portal 2.
Oh, nice.
You
should play that.
I'm probably going to give away some of the games that I'm going to play on free play over the next sort of like however many years with the podcast.
Should be high on the list.
Several years, Richard. And Portal 2 is number 1 with a bullet on my list.
Yep.
I'm so excited to play the game, and that was one, as I alluded to at the start of the podcast, that has been suddenly out of nowhere on the Switch. Portal and Portal 2 are £5 at the moment.
Yeah.
Buy now.
Should be getting that.
So I have. Don't worry, it's sat there waiting for me. So it'll be there however long I want it to be, and that will drop into our free play at some point. I'm super excited about playing that game. Definitely my bag.
Cool. So this is another one that simultaneously will be no surprise and a huge surprise. As soon as I find it on the list and stop talking.
I love having this list on paper though, written out as well.
Like it's nice, but at the same time kind of there you are, you cheeky little Elden Ring.
Okay, fair enough.
Elden Ring.
That almost went onto my list as well.
Because I've played all the other ones. And yet I haven't got round to that one yet.
Taking all the souls like off there.
I plan to at some point. I just don't know at what point. But yeah, no, it should be on there.
I was gonna speak upon souls like feeling quite pretentious, as in in so much that it's almost like everyone's a bit like, well, they're very hard games, and therefore only like people that can do hard games.
Earn the right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know
if I subscribe to that. I think.
No, you wouldn't do, because it's just one of my manic chats.
It's satisfying when you actually manage to start to suss it. What is pretentious is getting the Bloodborne art book in French, because it's that or Japanese.
You wanker.
But considering it's so obtuse anyway, and then getting it in French, you're like,
oh God,
c'est bon.
That's just brought.
The French version was half the price, and I stand by that decision.
I've got cartridge pen on my hands. I'm so angry. I'm bleeding ink just because of your gothness. It's just it's seeped into me.
Such an edgelord.
So speaking of gothy sort of games and games that I've owned for a long time. That isn't when I say a long time, like the last year, and I still haven't got around to it. But it is gonna come down with a hammer real soon. And that is Disco Elysium, which slots in at number 12 on this list, which I'm very pleased to see, because it seems to be actually, across a lot of the lists I was looking at, it seems to have seamlessly slotted into the sort of top
pantheon.
Echelons of top 100 games.
Yeah.
For a game from 2019. So I bought that on the Switch when it was on sale, and and I'm looking forward to playing that. It looks like, sort of a crazy ass sort of point and clicky kind of existential bullshit game that I'm just well into whiling away the hours on.
I'm very, very pleased it's got a mention, because that and Chrono Trigger, I think, are the two on my list that appeared on both my played and would have in top 10, but also my not played.
Yeah, fair enough.
I haven't played enough of either of them to really make a
which is fine.
decision.
Yeah.
But from what I have played, either of them could quite easily make my top 10 one day. So yeah, I'm very pleased that's getting a mention. My number 3, however, is another one that might be unexpected, and I can't bleeding find it again. Oh, there it is. Right, Tetris Effect.
Ah, a game I have played.
Hey!
Who'd have thought that would have happened?
It's bound to happen sooner or later.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, haven't played it. I mean, OG Tetris nearly got on my top 10. Didn't. But Tetris Effect, by all accounts, like you were saying about Disco Elysium, meant to be quite good. And yeah, would love to give it a spin sometime and see what it can do.
I think I mentioned on the podcast one time, it was probably on the podcast about when we did MetaQuest, about playing Tetris Effect on MetaQuest. And I feel like that, for all the things that you call a quintessential sort of VR experience, that would be one. Like, you are fully immersed in a room of Tetris, of different music, different vibes, and having that around you, and almost having effective Tetris on a massive wall in front of you. Like, as in, you are laying actual bricks. But then they all of a sudden change to different music, and it's like cogs and a windmill and stuff, and a very relaxing vibe. You know, you do feel like you're just in one of those rooms where you're just like, this is everything. So yeah, no, I'm glad that you've sort of put that on there, and I really hope that you do kind of get around to it. And I would recommend, if you can, play in a VR setting.
Yeah.
So I'm quite high on the top 100 again here. And again, I won't lie to you, I recently bought this game, and I bought it as part of the orange box, and that is Half-Life 2, which is slotted in at number 10. So I thought, for value for money, I've picked it up. Although I have heard the PS3 version is dire compared to the PC version. Apparently there's loads of bugs to it, but I'm going to play it anyway. And yeah, that's part of the orange box thing. I got it for like £8 the other week. So never played it. Sat there waiting at home, just like Portal 2 and Disco Elysium are. Like, at some point, I will play these games and review them and wax lyrical about them. For now, they sit there on my shelf, almost like, you know, when you kind of like think, I'm probably better off now not playing them because I know how good they are, but I'm probably working up in my head, you know, will they be as good? So yeah, that's me number 3, Half-Life 2.
Half-Life 2 was a weird one for me because I got it on I got a disc version, but still had to install Steam and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
But it was the first time I dabbled with any kind of like online store type stuff. But I did it through a CD or a DVD or something like that. It really confused me for a long time afterwards. But a great game. This one is definitely a kind of homage to my love of the Yakuza and Like a Dragon games. Shenmue.
Dreamcast?
Yeah.
I'm learning.
You are. It's definitely one of those ones that without Shenmue, you wouldn't have the Yakuza games. It kind of did a lot of the a similar stuff beforehand, where it would, you know, be a kind of third-person action, quote-unquote, action game, but you were doing a lot of side things first and all that, and tells a story with it. And yeah, just feel like I should tip the cap a little bit and give it a go sometime.
Oh, fair enough. Cool. So I'm going to flip my list a little bit here, for no reason other than the one that I had next, I was like, actually, no, I'm fine. So I'm going to put BioShock on there. BioShock. And I won't lie to you, again, something else I've managed to get relatively cheap recently. Got it on Xbox Store, all 3 of them, for £7, I think it was. Nice. And I noticed that Infinite's on here as well somewhere, so... but yeah, I've never played them. No reason other than I've just never got round to it. But I am looking forward to getting involved into that trilogy at some point. So yeah, BioShock is on there. You know, and it always seems to sit on top 100 lists. So yeah.
It's no.
We're all just going. Yeah.
I'm murmuring agreement because it's another one that nearly made my top 10.
Oh really?
It
right.
Nearly
Okay, that's
took
good.
Skyrim's spot. Because BioShock was probably one of the first games me and my wife played through together.
Ah, cool.
And that entire we started with one and ended up doing the entire trilogy. And it was like that and Borderlands 2, but I can't help but notice that Borderlands 2 didn't make the top 100. No, definitely a lot of fond memories of BioShock, despite the the narrative and general faintly downbeat tone. My fifth one is really quite silly, and I can't find it on the list. Where the heck have you gone? What are you even near? Wow. There you are. Right. Final Fantasy 14.
Okay.
So because it's an MMO, I've played maybe 10 minutes of a free version or something like that. And it was the kind of thing where, you know, that bit in The Simpsons where Bart is working front desk at the burlesque house and Abe comes in and sees him and just immediately turns around and goes out the door. I was looking for a Final Fantasy to play, saw that I could play that free and was like, all right.
Yeah. And
then realised it was an online thing. I'm like, bye.
So long, losers.
I've seen a lot of stuff suggesting that it is much better than I ever give it credit for.
11 and 14 are both the same, aren't they? They always get really highly rated and they're both online MMOs, aren't they?
I don't know if 11 and 14 are the same. I know they're both online. And 11, I think, is dead now. I don't know for sure. But 14 is still going strong. I think 11 was like, in my head it's PS2 era. I don't know if that's actually right. Like 14 is one that I feel like I should have played more than I have. And when effectively all I've done is go through the character creation menu and then never play it again. I feel I should give it a shake as a Final Fantasy fan.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So I guess this is the last pick of all drafting. I can kind of talk a few bits here then, really, because it's kind of all on the table. I probably should play a Souls-like at some point. I probably should play Last of Us at some point. Never played either of them. Again, have the ability to. I probably should play the Uncharted's. I've never played any of the Uncharted's yet. Again, have them sat at home. I have so many of these games just sat at home. Like, I just do. Destiny's on this list, never played that. Like, there is so many games that I'm just looking and thinking, I should want to play this, I should want to play that. One game I don't have that I do want to play, and I waxed lyrical about the PlayStation 3 last week, and how it should probably have a bit more love, is Journey. And that feels like something that everybody all the time, it's never out of a top 100. Yeah. It's never out of a top 100 video game list. And I've just literally made that decision kind of now, really, looking at what's left and what I feel like, there are games that I can play next, there are games that I will play next before that game, but what do I probably want to play next? That is, what would I think that I'd want to play at some point in my life is that game, and see if it is everything it's cracked up to be for the PlayStation 3.
I would definitely recommend it. And I'll tell you what, if you want any kind of additional endorsement, my new favourite theory, right? The more over like this week and the MotorStorm week and other ones recently, the more I'm convinced that my hallmark of a great game is if I go and buy the fucking soundtrack afterwards. I have the soundtrack to Journey.
Oh, nice.
And all that
Don't
kind of stuff.
stop. So...
No.
Okay. No. Well, I'm not in then. I'm fine. I'm out. So, if it's not that, then I'm not okay with it. No, fair enough. So, yeah. That was a fun birthday party we just had.
Yeah.
Don't think about it too much. No, so yeah, that was really good. Should we just quickly run over our list of games that we'd like to play next if we can find them on our fucking scroll? Jeez. So I can kind of find mine, I think.
Yeah, I think I've got mine.
Yeah, so you want to go first then?
Yeah, so Silent Hill 2.
Yep.
Elden Ring, Tetris Effect, I nearly read that as Elvis, Shenmue, and Final Fantasy 14.
I'm glad that got a bit sillier towards the end, or a bit more light-hearted than the start of what happened there. I'm a bit worried about Rich.
If it's not bleak, I don't want to know.
So mine's Portal 2, Disco Elysium, Half-Life 2, Bioshock, and what did I just pick there at the end? Can't even remember now. Thank you, Journey. So very much a total of 2010. I feel like I need to go back and see.
Yeah, you basically just skipped a year.
Yeah, well, pretty much that is it. But that's kind of what happened in my gaming sort of life. It kind of skipped a little period, 3 or 4 years, where I just didn't really sort
engage.
And I need to go back and deal with that.
I'll tell you what, though, there are quite a few on there that I've played a little bit of that I would like to play more. Like Outer Wilds is one that just is above Journey, and I'm like, yeah, I should play more of that. And there's
Wind Waker
loads on here.
I played half of Wind Waker. I need to go back to Wind Waker. It's just so expensive to go back to Wind Waker, whatever way you try and play it. So yeah, there's plenty of games that we've started and stuff. I mean, Red Dead Redemption, Jesus, that isn't started that game 3 times, and it's just like, like when will it ever end? Knights of the Old Republic in at 100 gets a mention in that. I've started that as well, and Age of Empires at 98. I started that the other week.
I haven't played that,
and I really enjoyed doing the tutorial part of it. But as soon as it kind of became something that wasn't that, I was like, I was like, where's the Sims? Where's the Sims?
Let me learn more.
Yeah. Cool. So we really hope that you've loved the first year of our podcast like we have. We're here to serve ourselves, but we're here to serve you too. So we're here. Thank you for listening. It means a lot to us. So hopefully carry on next year. Yeah, cool.
Sure, why not?
Awesome.
Yeah, give it a crack.
Right, that's all from us this week. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye.